It's been a long time since I did a video specifically talking about real estate. Real estate, of course, I always mention it the same vein with stocks and bonds. It's the third major risk asset class. And like the first two, it is highly sensitive to interest rates. Now, people don't talk about it as much day to day because, as I've said in the past, the real estate is a far less liquid market. It's not exchange traded. And it takes a long time for real estate prices to move relative to stocks. The stock market can be up, 3% in a day or 4% or something like that, or down, 3 or 4% in a day, or maybe even 5%, overall. The real estate market does not move that fast. Real estate moves, slow and methodically. It takes many, many years. The last real estate crash took 6 years to bottom from peak to trough. We had 6 long years. And so this time will be no different. We are seeing now mortgage rates, which are at their highest level since 2009. Of course, by 2009, the damage was done. The real estate crash was already upon us. The bubble was pricked way back in 2006. And if you look now, mortgage rates are approaching 6%. Depending on where you look, Fannie Mae, I think, or Freddie Mac, one of the two, said that it's about 5.3%. Other places you check online says that, 30-year rate is about 5.7%. And again, this is with like a 700 credit score. It's pretty good. We're rapidly approaching 6%, and the reason why I say 6%, why that's an important number, well, that's double 3% where it was like a year ago. It was it was around 3%-ish. It's actually 2.9. I've talked to some people who were able to get mortgages in the 2s. They were not a lot of them. Most people it was the low 3s, 3-ish. But you were able to get a 3% mortgage back then. Now we're pushing 6%, double that. So what does that mean? What does it mean for mortgage rates to double, to go from 3% to 6%? 6% is not historically a huge mortgage rate. Mortgage rates back in the 80s were in the double digits. They were 20%. Even well through the late 90s, they were high single digits, if not low double digits. But as mortgage rates have declined, people have been able to afford a larger principal. They've been able to make bigger and bigger offers on their houses because their monthly payment would still be the same because interest rates have been falling. Well, now that they're going up, now that they've doubled, what does that look like? Well, if you're someone making $75,000 a year, and you use the conventional 28% rule, which I'm not necessarily endorsing, but that is, that's the conventional wisdom, is that your mortgage should be about 28% of your pre-tax income. And so if you're doing everything by the book, you're listening to everything that the wizards of smart tell you to do, you only borrow, so that your monthly payment is that 28% of your monthly pre-tax income. And so if you're making $75,000 a year, that means you can afford about $1,750 a month in a mortgage payment. And so last year, if you got a mortgage at 3%, you could afford to borrow about $400,000. And if you're putting a down payment on that, that means that the house that you're buying is, well over $400,000, maybe $450,000 or higher. But if you have to pay 6% on that mortgage, and again, I'm rounding up because we'll probably be there pretty soon, because as I said this week, Powell has made it clear he's going to keep hiking rates. Mortgage rates will, I'm sure, get well over 6%, but we're almost there. We'll be there soon. Remember, the Fed is hiking Fed funds at 50 basis point clips per meeting. So let's just say, once mortgage rates are at 6%, if you're making $75,000 a year, because remember, incomes are not going up very much with all this inflation. Most people are not getting a raise, and if they are, it's not very much. And $75,000, that's a decent salary in America. So if you're making $75K and you can only afford $1,750 a month in your mortgage payment, At 6%, you're only going to be able to borrow $290,000, which means you are only able to purchase a house in the low 300s, which I don't know about where you are, but where I am, the low 300s will buy you a crappy 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. Won't get you a nice house. It won't get you, a 3-bedroom house if you have more than one child. It won't even get you a house with 2 bathrooms in most cases. It will buy you a small little house. And that's if you don't get outbid by cash investors, or even, underbid by cash investors, because, frankly, a cash offer that is a little lower, but doesn't have any of the risks associated with a mortgage, or the rigmarole, the red tape, and all that, that's a better offer. So if you offer $320 and somebody comes in with cash and offers $310, you're probably going to lose, and there's no shortage of investors at this point in time. So if you're going to get a house and you're someone with a mortgage, you're going to have to fork over a lot more dough. You're probably going to have to offer on like a $320,000 house, like $340, if you've got a mortgage and you actually want to get the house. And so realistically, if you can only afford to borrow $290,000, judging by how much the lack of savings that people have in America, you're probably lucky if you've got 30 grand for a down payment. You're probably going to be making offers on houses that are actually in the 2s, and that down payment money you've got is the extra money that you're going to offer above list in order to try and secure the house, because you are already at a disadvantage as someone with a mortgage, because depending on where you live, I don't know, maybe you're not in a hot real estate market, in which case if you're not in a hot real estate market, you could probably, affordability is probably not as big of an issue. But if you're in one of these hot real estate markets, like most markets in the country, you are competing with these cash investors on every single house. And so you got to significantly outbid them. And that means offering more money on houses that are listed less. So if you look at a house that's listed in like the 280s, at least everywhere that I've seen in my area, and by my area I mean kind of like my section of the state, 280s, not gonna buy, those aren't very nice houses listed there. They're either in the hood or totally trashed. And so you're gonna have to put a lot of money into it, probably, or not, maybe not a ton. Maybe some of them are okay-ish to live in. Maybe they don't have active, mold issues and collapsed ceilings. But let's be honest, for a lot of folks, this is just no longer a reasonable position. People cannot offer what they used to. I mean, that's a huge step down. If you go from a $400,000 house to a $300,000 house. And so what will be the net effect of this if everyone with a mortgage now can't afford to borrow as much money? They're going to be making offers on houses with lower and lower prices. And so the higher priced houses are not getting as many offers. That's what's going to happen. And so these homes, and I don't want to focus too much on the person making $75,000. I just picked that number out of thin air because I thought 100 sounds like a lot and 50 is kind of low. I don't even know what the median household income is. And you know what? Household income is probably not even right. But then again, we have such a transient and anti-family society. I don't even know how prevalent married couples with children are these days relative to single people. But the moral of the story is, no matter what your budget is, no matter what your budget was a year ago, your budget's a lot less now. And that's true across the board. Now, the cash people, yes, they have the same amount of cash. But the cash people are bidding based largely on what these people with mortgages can afford. It's because they have to compete with these folks with mortgages who are able to, make such big offers that the cash people are having to pay so much. So the cash people alone are not going to prop up, the current pricing in the housing market. If to the extent that the cash buyers don't have to compete with the people who are getting mortgages, the cash folks are going to be able to offer less. And so in the example I used earlier, there was about a 28% decline in purchasing power as a result of doubling of the interest rate from 3% to 6%. And so if home buyers have 28 people applying for mortgages who are looking to buy a home have 28% less purchasing power, you cannot sustain home prices at the current level. I'm not saying that they're going to fall 28% based off of this doubling of the interest rate alone. I don't think that it's that, static of an arithmetic, or it's not an arithmetic sort of sequence. There's a lot of factors that go into this. But I'll say that at this point, it is impossible for home prices to continue to rise, with that being the case. Because people's incomes, everyone's income, would have had to rise significantly across the board in order to make up for this increase in interest rates, because their incomes would need to go up to afford the higher monthly payments if they were going to be able to make the same offers or offer the same amount of money for a house. So just like with the what we call the 2008 crash, but really if you're talking about housing, the 06 to 2012 crash, it's going to take a long time for this to materialize. But just in the first quarter, now first and second quarter of 2022, mortgage rates have risen very, very fast. And we're going to see it start impacting the market. You're going to see mortgage applicants just dropping off. And if there weren't so many cash investors, speculating in all these markets to begin with, we would see it much faster, because it would be an immediate effect of the disappearance of these people applying for mortgages. But nevertheless, they do still represent a significant population of people making offers. So perhaps by this fall, we'll really start to notice the impact. And I don't mean in terms of prices, I mean in terms of how fast it's taking, or how fast houses are turning pending, how long it takes, how long they're sitting on the market. That's really the first metric you got to watch. Because people aren't going to cut their prices until the house is sitting there with no offers. That's where you have to get to. Because right now we're at the stage to where there will be less offers. Well, now we got to get to the stage to where there are no offers at a given price. And then the homeowners will have to start cutting their list prices. So I know today was a bit jumbled. I really took a while to get to the point. I should have said at the very beginning, hey, homeowners have lost 28% of their purchasing power. Or home buyers. Gosh, sorry. If I were a higher tier YouTuber, I probably would scrap this whole recording and start over. And start with that line. Or, maybe if I spend any time editing at all, I would clip that and then put it at the beginning and say, hey, home buyers have lost 28% of their purchasing power. But you know what? If you're not with me enough to stick through to the end of the video, you don't deserve my brilliant, unique insights that you obviously could not get from anyone else. It's not like you have the skills to use a 4-function calculator yourself to calculate how much less people can afford now with the rise in interest rates. You need an evil genius like me to do that, don't you? So it's a mathematical certainty at this point. Until the Fed flip-flops and gets mortgage rates back down to where they were, the housing market, real estate in general, is going to start moving in the wrong direction. At least the wrong direction as far as they're concerned. It's the right direction as far as I'm concerned. I wish it would move a lot faster. I wish that this, collapse began a few years ago, so that, maybe now I'd be able to, buy something. But I know that's not going to happen for, many, many years. Because as young as I am, I would be so stupid if I bought something now, and then in a few years things get a lot cheaper, and I would just be stuck in, you know, a shithole. Even if which, I mean, I can't afford a shithole at this point, but if I could, you know, you drop $350 on a shithole in a few years, you can buy, you know, that'll buy you a classy 1,500 square foot mansion in a nice part of town. But hell, who am I kidding? I mean, I live in one of those places to where they buy up the houses get bought up, and they've gone up so much in value that they knock down a perfectly good house to build a bigger house on the lot. And at first, you know, they only did that with like houses that were on the water, you know, and I mean real water, like salt water. But now that just keeps moving further and further inland, and we are pretty much at the point where they do that around me, and I just look around and I just go, wow, I'm totally screwed if I want to stay this down. But hey, you know what? These things move slow, and from my perspective, we're going in the right direction at this point. Honestly, I would like to see mortgage rates at 9%. I'd like them to go up another 3%. I would like them to triple from that bottom of 3%. And then maybe housing will come back down to earth. And again, 9% is not absurdly high by historic standards. I mean, there were people getting 9% mortgages back in the 90s. Oh, and guess how much these $350,000 shitholes were back then? They were like 80 grand. So these high interest rates, not a bad thing. Because again, if you have high interest rates, that incentivizes you to save up money. You know, it's not if there's a 9% interest rate, and because of that, you know, the value of a house is like between 80 and 120,000. You know what? Maybe over a period of a few years, you'll actually save up like 50 grand and put down a really big down payment on your house. And then you've got a mortgage for like 60 grand or maybe 40 grand. And yeah, you're paying 9% on it, but it's a really tiny mortgage, so you still have got a small payment. And, you know, since you don't have that big of a principal, that big of a balance, maybe you could actually pay it off in only a few years. You know, don't pay it down over 30 years. Pay it off in 10 years if you can, or get a 15-year mortgage. You know, if there were houses that were selling, you know, in the $80,000 range again, you save up 40 grand, you put 40 grand down, you get a 15-year mortgage, you know, fixed mortgage at, you know, for the other 40,000, and then you pay it off in 7.5 years. You know, that's the kind of thing that you would expect from a healthy, financially sound society. But instead, no, we have people paying $400,000 for, you know, a crappy 1,200 square foot house if you're lucky, maybe with a one-car garage. But let's be honest, you probably are getting a carport at that price. And you will pay a significant percentage of your income for the next 30 years on that house. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.